People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Carl Jung.
She looked at you like you were everything she ever wanted. But deep down, something didn't feel right. You told yourself it was just nerves, maybe self-doubt. But what if I told you that the truth is much darker? That the warmth in her eyes was never meant for you, but for the version of you she invented? The one she needed, not the one you are. Carl Jung saw this coming decades ago. While the world painted love in romantic hues, Jung picked up a scalpel and dissected it. He saw the shadows hiding beneath the smiles, the unconscious forces shaping our relationships. And what he discovered? It wasn't comforting. It was brutal, especially for men. You think she sees you? She doesn't. You think she loves you? Maybe. But what if she only loves the mask? Let's talk about that mask. The one you put on to be chosen. The one you wear to be understood. And let's talk about the terrifying moment when you realize the one who chose you never even saw your face. Because in that moment, everything collapses. That's why you're here. Not just for answers, but for truth. Truth that cuts through illusion. Truth that sets you free. Jung discovered that many women don't fall in love with men. They fall in love with the idea of men, with the fantasy, with the projection. It's not intentional, not malicious. It's unconscious. Inside, every woman lives an inner masculine image called the animus. And when this animus is immature or unintegrated, it doesn't seek truth. It seeks control. She doesn't know she's projecting. But she is. She sees you, hears you, laughs with you, but she's interacting with the man in her mind, not the one in front of her. You're just filling a role she wrote long before you arrived. And when you stop playing that role, she doesn't adjust the story. She changes the actor. This is not love, this is theater. And if you don't understand the script, you'll spend your life auditioning. You'll feel it early. The subtle misalignments, the praise that feels off, the way she's more excited about your potential than your reality. At first, it's flattering. Then, suffocating. Because slowly, you realize you are not allowed to evolve organically. You must evolve according to her narrative. If you resist, you become the villain. If you comply, you disappear. It's a no-win game, unless you refuse to play. But to do that, you must first recognize the stage you're on and the role you're performing. There's a particular kind of loneliness that only comes from being next to someone who never truly saw you. You were there, fully, honest, giving, and yet, you always felt invisible. That's because you weren't chosen for your soul. You were chosen for how well you played the part. You didn't fail her. You just stopped fitting the costume. When men experience this, it often leads to shame. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? But Jung flips the question. What if the problem was never you? What if you were just trying to make real love happen in a fantasy world? The pain isn't just rejection. It's betrayal of your time, your authenticity, your willingness to be real. You gave yourself. But she gave the role an expiration date. And it cuts deep because you were vulnerable. You weren't playing games. You thought this was love. But it was something else entirely. It was a stage with shifting props, moving walls, and invisible expectations. And when you failed to meet one of those unspoken expectations, the lights dimmed. She pulled back. Maybe slowly, maybe abruptly, but always without clarity. Because clarity would mean admitting she never saw you to begin with. Men learn early. To be loved, you must be agreeable. To be chosen, you must adapt. Smile more, argue less, give everything, expect little, and so you mold yourself. Bit by bit, you become a version of yourself that earns affection but loses respect. Jung called this self-betrayal. The moment you stop being to become what you think is lovable, and here's the truth. She might stay with that version of you, but she won't crave him. Because the moment you betray your soul, you become predictable, manageable, and nothing kills attraction faster. You think you're giving her what she wants. But what she really wanted was the man who didn't need her approval. So many men confuse peacekeeping with love. They avoid conflict to preserve connection. But what they're really doing is negotiating their masculinity. And every time you say yes when you mean no, a piece of you dies. Not dramatically, quietly, slowly. Until one day you wake up and don't recognize yourself. Not because she changed you, but because you surrendered yourself inch by inch just to be chosen. When the female animus is unexamined, it becomes tyrannical. It moralizes. It dominates. It makes her believe she is always right, always justified. She becomes a priestess of psychological purity, and you become the heretic. You start apologizing for things you didn't do, explaining yourself endlessly, walking on eggshells. Because her criticism doesn't feel like disagreement, it feels like judgment from someone who believes she knows you better than you do. Jung warned, a woman possessed by her animus is not loving, she is asserting. Not understanding, but overpowering. And you, caught in the storm, begin to question your own mind. It's disorienting. Gaslighting wrapped in charm, condescension disguised as concern. And the worst part? She genuinely believes she's helping. Because the animus, when unbalanced, speaks with certainty. It doesn't question itself. It doesn't reflect. It commands. And the man caught in its orbit becomes smaller with every encounter, until he starts policing his own voice, editing his thoughts, doubting his intuition. That is not a relationship. That is psychic imprisonment. Eventually, the role you were cast to play becomes too tight. You can't breathe in it anymore. You say something unscripted. You act outside the character. And in that moment, the illusion shatters. She looks at you not with love, but with confusion. As if you're a stranger. Because you are, to her story, not to yourself. To yourself, you are finally honest. But to her, you've broken the spell. She may resent you, or replace you. But what she won't do is see you. Not now, not truly. Because real vision requires vulnerability. And vulnerability terrifies the projected self. The end of the illusion is not a clean break. It's chaotic, painful. Blame is thrown. Histories are rewritten. You become the villain, the disappointment, the failure. Because admitting the projection was flawed would mean admitting she never loved you. But the truth is, neither of you were who you thought. And that's not a tragedy. It's an awakening. Jung offered no easy escape, no tricks, no pickup lines. Just one brutal solution: individuation. Becoming whole within yourself. Choosing your path even if no one applauds it. Especially if no one applauds it. Most men never start this journey. Because it's lonely. It strips you. It asks you to face the parts of yourself you've buried. The insecure, the weak, the terrified. But on the other side, freedom. The kind that cannot be seduced or threatened. A man who knows himself cannot be manipulated by the fantasy of another. Individuation demands discipline, reflection, boundaries. It requires you to stop seeking validation in the eyes of others and begin cultivating it within your own soul. You become your own authority, your own compass, and slowly, you stop reacting. You start choosing. And when you choose from that place of clarity, everything changes. Once you begin to see the truth, you can't unsee it. You start noticing the games, the inconsistencies, the subtle manipulations, and it makes you quiet. Not bitter, just distant. People won't understand. They'll say you're cold, closed off, arrogant. But the truth is simpler. You just stopped participating in illusions. You stopped auditioning. You no longer sell your soul for a place in someone else's script. This distance is sacred. It's not isolation. It's protection. It's the space where your clarity breathes, where your truth grows stronger. And though it may be misunderstood, it is necessary. Because once you've tasted truth, the comfort of illusion turns bitter. You loved her. At least you thought you did. But maybe what you loved was the dream. Maybe she did too. Maybe you were both in love with a mirror. Jung didn't ask you to hate women. He asked you to see beyond the story, beyond the projection, to recognize that until you know who you are, every relationship will be a repetition of the same tragedy. You were not meant to be chosen. You were meant to choose, not her, yourself. And when you finally do, everything changes. Not instantly, not comfortably, but profoundly. You become untouchable, not because you build walls, but because you grow roots. You stop floating from one illusion to the next and stand finally in truth. And in that truth, some will call you dangerous, not because you harm, but because you see. So if you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for walking through the fire of self-confrontation. If this resonated with you, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and watch our next episode about the dark power of feminine projection. Because once you see the shadow, you can never go back to pretending it wasn't there. Until next time, stay rooted, stay awake, and most of all, stay real.